you doing, buddy? How's it going?
Oh, mate, I'm really well.
So, what do you want to jump into first, sir?
Should we do the Ratched trailer?
Let's do the Ratched trailer, yes. Right, off the top, what do you think?
The first thing that hit me is that's a bloody long trailer.
Yeah.
It's a series, isn't it? It's not a film.
Yes, the series, yeah.
So, I know they've got a lot of stuff to get through, but you kind of expect like a teaser trailer first, just a little bit of it. But we've gone from just having a few production stills to having this full-blown, nearly 3-minute long trailer. I mean, it looks fantastic. I'm not criticising it. It just surprised me that they're giving so much content away so quickly.
What I was really surprised at, and we'll get into the trailer in a minute, but what really, really took me back was this is dropping on September the 18th.
Seriously, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I agree with you. We went from, the title and cast announcement to a couple of stills that we chatted about on the last week's show.
Yeah.
To now, where we've got really, really good trailer. But yeah, this is dropping in like a month's time.
When you sent it to me, did you say it's not actually a horror?
No, it is a horror, I believe.
Yeah, I thought so, because I was going to say some of the things in the trailer were quite horrific.
Yeah, no, it's it's definitely a psychological horror, I believe, or thriller. Maybe they're describing it as a thriller. Same thing.
Anything with Sarah Paulson's in is just gold, and I can't wait to see it. I think it looks brilliant. I think she's perfect in the role.
Yeah, I completely agree. So let's get into that. Let's get into the trailer. What are you really excited about? Obviously, you've just touched on Sarah Paulson. That is a given.
There's a couple of bits that really stand out. You see her doing... I don't want to spoil it. You see her doing a couple of things with presumably some sort of chisel and a hammer on a person.
Yes.
But the thing that really struck for me is the whole conversation around the peach that she has with another nurse.
Wow.
And that the line she delivers there, so cold, when she says, well, I'll set the scene. This is all I'm going to spoil. But what happens is, in the trailer, she's complaining that someone's eaten her peach, and the other nurse says, you should have put your name in it. And they get into a bit of an argument. And the other nurse says, well, what are you going to do about it? And then she says to her, what, are you deaf? Because she never answers. And Sarah Paulson just says, no, I'm just thinking about all the things I'm going to do about it. And it's delivered so cold.
It's so good.
It's fantastic.
What really stood out for me was just the dialogue as well. The dialogue is so sharp. It reminded me of Aaron Sorkin, if you're familiar with Aaron Sorkin's dialogue. And just the back and forth. Yeah, you're right, where the other nurse has it and she says you should have put your name in it. And then I just love the back and forth. It's so good. It's so snappy, such quick dialogue.
It felt like that those two nurses were in like a bit of a clique. They're the old guard at this place, and you kind of feel like that's not the approach you want to take with this new nurse.
Yes.
Because she's having none of it. Even at the beginning, when she has that kind of throwaway line, but it does link it nicely back to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So when she talks to the guard at the start about the state of his nails.
Yeah, I thought there was some elements of really, really nicely tied this back to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Stretching off from that, what really jumped out to me straight away as soon as you play it, the music, the choice of music, I thought was really clever, really smart. I'm really enjoying a lot of trailers doing that at a minute, kind of with an old song or a version of an old song. We had it recently with one of the Candyman trailers.
Yep.
Which was really interesting. The other thing that really stood out to me was the colour of this series. The colours just pop off the screen.
That's exactly what I was just about to say.
Yeah.
The colours really... I mean, it sounds really cliche to say the colours stand out. It sounds like a washing powder, but they do.
Yeah.
Everything's so bright and not what you'd expect necessarily from something that's quite dark and low. And I suppose maybe that's counterpoint to the content.
Well, I haven't watched One Flew for a long time. I've definitely got to go back and watch it.
Yeah, it's been at least 10 years for me.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, that isn't colourful at all.
No.
Right?
I've just got images. I mean, and I know my memory's skewed, but I've just got images of white rooms, white walls, white outfits, everything.
Yeah, it's all very saturated. It's all got that, very old 70s film stock look to it. This really pops. This really works. And I think for a modern age, trying to bring in some new blood, some new fans to this story, to this world, I think that's really going to work. I think it really will tap into that Netflix audience. You know, we
Mm.
have spoke about on our previous 2 episodes where we felt like some series are a little bit. When we spoke about Scream, the TV series Scream, we said it felt a
Yeah,
little bit like
yeah.
Pretty Little Liars.
Mm.
And again, I think like if you look at why that was, for me, it was because you've got that core audience of Netflix teens that latched onto Pretty Little Liars. You kind of do the same with Scream. It works. And then for me, the colours in this actually really, really remind me of Riverdale. Even if you
Yeah,
haven't seen
yeah,
any episodes of Riverdale,
yeah.
like that color palette. Anytime you put on Netflix and something Riverdale comes up, that color palette just jumps out to you. And I think this kind of taps into that a little bit. And yeah, I could really see, purely based on the look of this, a lot of people saying, right, I'm going to give this a go, I'm going to dive in. But yeah, it really stands out, man. It really stands in mind. I can't wait for this series.
Yeah, me too. And I'm surprised it's coming so quickly, but I can't wait. Was it 5-6 weeks,
Yeah,
and then it'll be with us.
if that. Yeah,
How do you feel about this new thing? I mean, obviously we grew up with 4 or 5 channels. How do
yeah.
you feel about this ability to watch a whole series in one go? Because it's not for me. I still try and
Okay, interesting.
do it. I mean, I always try and do one a week. It never happens. Like proper old school. I normally go one a night. I can't bring myself to do more than that. I like to look forward to it and to savor it.
Yeah, see, I would love to be able to say I'm the same,
you're,
but
you're
I'm
not so are you?
oh my god, no. I see binging before we even had that term, binge watching.
Mm,
I very much used to do it because I would normally discover a series on about season 3, 2, 3, or 4. For example, when I discovered Buffy the Vampire Slayer,
yeah.
I discovered that when it was probably about 3 seasons old by the time. So what I would end up doing is I would end up, going and get the VHS boxes back then, and I'd binge the whole thing ready for the new season. There was something that I didn't really like the idea of waiting. If I'm honest, I just wait to consume as much as possible, and I think that's because I think I concentrate more because I watch so much at one time. Like it's not like I'm just
Mm,
watching one or two TV shows. So like if it's weekly, for instance, The Mandalorian recently on Disney Plus, they released those episodes weekly. So I was watching them weekly, but also during that week, I would watch, a film every day, every other day. I would be watching TV series. I watch documentary series. I watch stuff on YouTube. I think my problem is I just consume so much that if I can just live with a TV show,
mm.
I can't remember the last TV show I binge start to finish in like one day. I have definitely done that. But yeah, normally I do try and spread it over probably a week. I'll probably try and do an episode or two a day.
To be fair, there is one thing that broke my rule, and that was American Horror Story. So if anything's
Right.
going to do
Okay.
it again, it would be
It would
this.
be this. Yeah.
Certain
It would.
series, um, I'd watch 3 episodes back to back, um, which is, some people might think, well, that's nothing. I could do 5, or I'll go all night. But for me, that's a big deal
That's a
because
big deal. Yeah.
I'm quite reasonably disciplined on one a day maximum.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I just loved it so much. I just had to get more, more,
Oh yeah.
more,
I
more,
yeah.
more.
I do it. There's some stuff that I can easily do one a day, one even every other day, or like some stuff I'll just go back to. I find with a lot of comedy TV shows and stuff like that, I can easily just come in and out of them
Yeah,
every
yeah.
couple of days, or even like one a week or stuff. Just be oh, I'm going to go back there. And then there's some series that I just get really really hooked on. Most recently, and this isn't horror related at all, but being a huge Star Wars fan, I have been meaning for like the longest time to watch the Clone Wars TV series. So with now having Disney Plus, they're all
Yeah.
there, and they've just wrapped the last season of Clone Wars. So I went from having seen no Clone Wars to in a couple of weeks having watched 7 seasons of Clone Wars because I just couldn't do it. I'm very obsessive with stuff like that. So as a lot of the time I don't sleep. So I will just stay up all night just watching, if I'm really invested in something. But
Mm,
then
mm.
what I tend to do is I tend to, like, so let's say with Clone Wars, right, you got 7 seasons. I'll tend to get like 5 seasons in and like do that really quickly, and then I'll get sad knowing that it's going to end. So then I have to like space myself out a little bit, really strangely. But yeah, yeah, man, I can't wait for this. I think this is going to be extraordinary. I think Netflix have got some really, really good stuff coming up
Yeah,
in the next few months. This for me may be top of that list.
yeah,
It really,
I
really,
agree with that.
definitely. So let's leave it on that. But I'm going to go into a little saying I sent you.
Hmm.
This isn't exactly horror related, though I feel a lot of horror films will be affected by it purely because it's Universal, who deal with a lot of horror films. I believe, they have the distribution deal for a lot of the Blumhouse stuff. So this, is going to affect a lot of horror films. But it is an announcement that was made in America this week. There has been a deal struck between Universal Pictures and AMC Theatres, where they have now agreed to a 17-day theatrical window for films to play in theatres and then go on VOD. So, for a little bit of background, where this comes from, if some of you remember back at the beginning of the COVID-19 outbreak, cinemas started shutting down, films were getting pushed, studios were losing a lot of money, and they were trying to work out, okay, do we put these on VOD? Do we see where we go with this? Obviously, this week, Disney have just announced that they're putting Mulan on Disney Plus. That's been a big talking point, but that
Yep,
actually all
yep.
started back at the beginning of the pandemic when Universal announced that the kids' film Trolls World Tour would be going on VOD. And they had a huge falling out with AMC Theatres, which for our American listeners, I'm sure you all know what AMC Theatres is, but for our listeners elsewhere, AMC is the biggest theatre chain in America. So obviously a big, big deal. And they had a big falling out over this. And the guy that runs AMC essentially come out and said they're done with Universal. This will be it. We're not showing any more Universal films. Universal obviously weren't happy about this. They were to go to the table and negotiate a deal.
You're right. It is a game changer. I'm not convinced that it's for the benefit of us necessarily. Time will tell. I'm not really into conspiracy theories, but I am skeptical about the whole thing that literally 2 weeks prior they were at complete, like, almost to the point of they're never going to do business again, and then all of a sudden they've got this really lucrative deal between the two of them
Oh
that's
no, of
kind of
course.
come
I
from
don't believe
this.
that at all because if you're just looking at Universal's upcoming
Yeah.
calendar, I mean, before everything shut down, they had the mega hit that was The Invisible Man that made everyone a lot of money.
Mm.
But if Universal have the Fast and the Furious franchise, which doesn't interest me in the slightest, but is a huge money maker. They have the Jurassic Park franchise, or now Jurassic World, again, huge money maker. All of the horror stuff they're putting out, they're obviously relaunching all the classic monsters.
So I mean, correct me if I'm wrong then. So it means that AMC will get exclusivity, so they'll get the first 3 weekends, I think it is.
Right, so this is what's interesting about this deal. This is why I thought we should bring it up and we should talk about it. And I know that you guys and girls out there that listen to other podcasts, everyone's talking about this, and I think rightfully so. This is such a big deal for
Mm.
the fact that you just touched on, Chris. So I'm not sure about the exclusivity of the 3 week window. So the 3 week window, I'm not sure if that means these films only go in AMC theaters, but where there is an exclusive deal is the VOD after that 17-day window. So after 17 days, AMC have agreed that after 17 days, you in your own household can rent this film for around $20 to $30. Probably the same in pounds. The big talking point off the back of that is AMC have agreed a deal where they get a cut of that VOD performance. Now, the
Yeah.
reason that is such a huge talking point, this deal does not apply to Cineworld or Regal or any other. No independence, no nothing. This is purely a deal between Universal and AMC.
Yep. Yep.
So it is AMC looking after themselves, which, let's be honest, we can't blame them for, right? Because no one knows where they're at in the current climate of the world. So we can't blame them for that. But I can't see then, going back to that 17-day window, how Universal films don't become exclusive to
Mm.
AMC theatres. Because how Are other theatres, are Regal going to say, yeah, we'll play your films? So yeah, man, I mean, where does this leave it? How do you feel about something being in a cinema for 7 days, and then how do you feel about the VOD model in general?
I'm fine with VOD, but as long as I had the opportunity to see it in the cinema first. If I missed it in the cinema, obviously I want it to be on VOD as soon as possible. I still can't get my head around it because get this, I found I'm reading this from Vanity Fair,
Okay.
and this says, and this is what I can't get my head around. Under a multi-year agreement, Universal will offer AMC 3 weekends for theatrical exclusivity on all Universal Pictures and Focus Features films. After that time, the studio can make its features available to audience at home via premium video on demand. So that implies that AMC in America, AMC will get 3 weekends of just them showing Universal films.
Wow.
Then it will switch to video on demand
All right.
and the other theatres, I presume. By which point, the other theatre chains are surely going to be thinking, well, most of the income from the box office is going to be the first few weekends,
Well, here's
and
what's
then it's
interesting
going to go
about
to
that.
video on demand.
So here's what's interesting about that. Knowing we was going to talk about this, I've done a little bit of research into it. 17 days is normally where the studio makes the majority of their money. On the majority of films that studios will put in a cinema, 17 days is the benchmark for where they make the majority of money. Yes, there are exceptions to that. There are sleeper hits that roll out slowly, but normally they're smaller films, independent films, a little bit like Ladybird. That goes against the grind, started very slow, worked its way up. But the majority of films, the blockbuster films, the ones where you make your big money, you make that money in 17 days. So if the article you are reading is correct, and that film is in AMC theatres for 17 days exclusively, why would any other cinema take it after that 17 days?
Yeah, but then so to go further than that, then AMC get it for 3 weekends, which are those 17 days of
Yeah,
big money.
yeah.
Only AMC get them. Then it goes to video on demand and presumably some other theatres if that's the way it goes. But AMC, we believe, are going to get a cut of the video on demand as well. So what does Universal get out of this?
So Universal essentially get their films in AMC theatres. That's the deal, and I think it's been struck with AMC and not anyone else because they're the biggest.
But would that not
They're
happen
the big
anyway?
boys in town.
Or is this all because AMC suddenly said we're not going to show your films?
Yes, yes. So after Trolls, AMC essentially come out and said we're done with Universal. We're not showing your films. So while neither of us believe that was the case, that is what AMC were putting out there. They did release an official statement saying that, and I think Universal were worried that that could happen.
Do
God,
AMC have their own video on demand? Or is it just cinemas?
not that I know of. Not that I know of. I mean, if anyone out there that is based in America is listening and that is the case, please drop that down below because that would be very interesting if they do.
Yeah.
That would be
Yeah, I
very
did
interesting.
either their own one or they
Yeah.
had a financial interest in another. Because I know there's a few out in America that we don't get.
Here's where I want to go with this, and this is where we're going to end. It's more of a question. Netflix and Amazon look like that's where they're going. They're going to have their own cinemas playing just their films.
Yep.
Now let's take this. AMC may be the exclusive home of Universal films. Now, what if off the back of this, Regal Cinemas and Cineworld come out and say, okay, we're done with Universal because you've got this deal with AMC. We're not going to show Universal films. And then a really big boy like Disney comes in and they say, we're not going AMC anymore. We're going all Regal. We're going all Cineworld. And we get back to something like you used to have in classic Hollywood, which was the territory system, where the studios owned their own cinemas. They only played their own films. And for those that are not really aware of that history, the reason Hollywood got rid of that and actually banned it was because it created an atmosphere where the studios were just purely dominating. No one else could get their films in the cinemas. This was what created the midnight movie craze and, seeing horror films really late at night and stuff like in these independent art house cinemas because no one else could get their films in the cinema. So they got rid of that. They tried making it an even playing field. But obviously, in recent years, especially with Disney buying up everyone, there's talk of Apple are going to come out the gate and start buying up people. Apple have got more money than anyone, so Apple could buy whoever they want. What if we did get back to this territory system? What if we did get back to studios owning their own cinemas, and you had to go to a Disney theatre, you had to go to a Sony theatre, a Universal
It's
theatre?
interesting. I mean, it wouldn't look a whole lot different to something we've got in England in Leicester Square,
Right.
in that you only get a film at one cinema, and you have to walk around Leicester Square to see where your film's playing, the one that you want to see, because it's not on at every one.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine it'd be, obviously a much much grander scale. But I kind of feel like this is all well and good for the uh, big companies, but if you look at some of them, not even the smaller ones, like the mid-range ones, like if we're talking horror, like Bloomhouse, then they're not making films on like the hundreds and millions of
No.
dollars of budget. So where does that leave companies like them? Because
Exactly. Well, not even them, because I may be mistaken on this, but I'm pretty sure they have a deal with Universal, so I think they'd be covered. But where
so
it
they'd go
does,
with.
right, but
Mm,
where it does get tricky is beyond that.
yeah.
They've developed themselves into a nice little mini studio in a way.
Yes.
But what happens to? I tell you what, right? We were going on last week about A24 and how much we love A24.
Yeah.
What happens with them? Where do they go?
Hopefully they go to like these really atmospheric art house cinemas.
I I would love that, and I love the
Won't
idea.
necessarily make their money though, will it?
Right, I love the idea of that, but is that feasible? We don't really have art house cinemas around here. We have a picture
No.
house, but that's it. There's not really many art house cinemas that are around. It's interesting, man. I think this is definitely something to watch, and I think for the future of film, this could be really interesting. It's going to be really interesting, and for what we talk about on this podcast, horror, and especially some independent horror that we touch on, it's going to be interesting, man.
And I reckon that we're going to see more announcements like this from the bigger companies, as you say. And I think the other companies are going to be waiting to see what the next steps are with Universal and AMC, and then they'll be looking to do their own as well.
I completely agree. So I just touched on independent horror. So let's use that as a segue into our next talking point. I'm going to let you take this one, Chris.
That was so smoothly done as well.
Oh, this is what I do all week. I just practice my segues. That's it.
So this is a film, and to be perfectly honest, I'd not heard of this film. A friend of mine sent it to me, and she's in it. She plays one of the villains in it, and it's called The Haunting of Margam Castle. And I was looking into it, and it's by a Welsh director called Andrew Jones, who, again, I wasn't familiar with his work, but he is arguably the most prolific British filmmaker there is. I mean, one year he produced 6 films, and he's very much doing low budget horror films. I think he was also what the year he was named his company was named the most prolific filmmaker. It was also the same year that they were named as the company with the smallest budgets as well. So he's got a lot of projects on the go at a time, and from the sounds of it, his production company producing these films. Sometimes he's the director, sometimes he's the writer, sometimes he's both. Now, The Haunting of Margam Castle is a kind of step up in the budget and the production values, and is set. So I don't know if you're aware of Margam Castle, but it's a real place in Wales. Supposedly, like so many are, it's the most haunted place in the British Isles. And the film is coming out in September, I believe, in America in October over here. So, and when I watched the trailer, perhaps unfairly, but when I think of an independent film, and I think I'm going to be watching a low budget independent film trailer, I'm not expecting too much. However, when I watched this, I couldn't tell you that it was that. It looked really polished to me. Looked like it's got some really great special effects in it. Found it a little tense in places as well. I thought it looks really great. What did you think of it?
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to have to come in and agree with you. And I'll be honest, I was the same. I was going into this, and straight away, where it's called The Haunting of, there are a lot of films that do that. And
Yeah.
off the back of this guy's name, I didn't recognize him either. However, when I clicked through to his IMDb link that you sent me, I recognised a lot of the films
It's impressive, isn't
on
it?
his. It's very impressive, and these are the type of films that you see in over here, a supermarket we have called Asda, in
Yeah,
America, probably Walmart, places like that. They're the horror films that pop up on the shelves in there every week. And oddly enough, I've probably seen most of these films over the years, sitting on them shelves. So I'm very well aware of this guy's work, even though
yeah,
I'll be the first to admit I haven't actually seen any of them. I watched this trailer, and yeah, I was very, very surprised at how, not just how well it looks, as in like how well it's put together, and the cinematography is quite nice in it,
mm,
but
mm,
the trailer tells a nice story in itself, which I always think
yeah,
is a
yeah.
is a nice selling point. But it seems very interesting, like you said, it's quite intense in places.
I'm a fan of kind of the gothic feel
Yes, I
films,
am, and
and
I'm aware of this castle as well. It's been on a few paranormal shows here in the UK,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm
I
aware of this
remember.
castle. So that's kind of what stood out to me first of all.
Funnily enough, my friend Sarah D, who's in there, she got put up in this beautiful manor house in Wales while they were filming, which is also quite famous as being haunted. And she said there was quite haunting experiences in this manor house, and in the castle as well. And I think what's quite nice is that kind of probably fed into the performance as well. Probably a fear of what it'd get out of there.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But yeah, this seems to have a bit of everything. This has got, just looking at the trailer, you had some creepy dolls. You've obviously got the ghost element, the paranormal element.
Mm,
You've got some kind of, it's some kind of killer element. I'm not really sure if that's related to the ghosts or whatever. But yeah, I mean, go and obviously we're going to link the trailer down below. Definitely
yeah,
go and check it out. And what I really like about this, and we kind of touched on it last week a little bit with our creepy link of the week when we done a short film, this is something we're gonna regularly bring to this podcast. I think this is something that a lot of you guys out there really react to. So I think every week we're gonna kind of do like an indie spotlight
yeah.
where
That'd be
where
really
yeah
good.
where
Yeah,
we're like throw a trailer at you or something that we really like. Because indie films are a big passion of both of ours, and
mm,
we watch a lot of indie films. So I think if we can kind of turn one or two people onto them, why the hell not? So yeah, guys, go and check out this link. And following on from that, we're going to talk about a hell of a lot of indie films and
yeah.
the
One or two.
biggest, yeah, one or two, the biggest genre festival in the UK, a little festival called Frightfest that some
Never
of
heard
you
of it.
might be aware of. Never heard of it. Never heard of it. So, Frightfest, unfortunately, will not be taking place in Leicester Square this year as its annual 5-6 day mega event, which is always fun if you can make it down there for the whole weekend. Just make it down there for a day or two. I've done both over the years and always have fun. Everyone's very welcoming, great atmosphere, and very lucky to have also had my last short film Black Mass play their Glasgow event earlier this year, which now means even more, right? Because it was like
Mm.
their last event with a crowd and everything like that. So
Just because I know you won't do this for yourself, but just to say it speaks volumes of the film because it's not easy to get your film played at Fright Fest. So the fact that you got Black Mass there speaks about how good a film it is.
oh, thank you, man. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a very personal film. And yeah, I'm sure some of you already know about that. And if the others don't, go to my YouTube channel and check out the trailer. But to, yeah, throw the spotlight on this year's event, they, like I touched on, they will not be doing their live annual event. They are going to try and do that in October. But we will see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, so they have, not just postponed and not just gone, right, we're moving it. All credit to them. They've said 4 or 5 day online event. Not as many
Yeah.
films as you would normally have. You buy your online ticket, you get a load of films. And yeah, I think there's some great films playing. Have you had a chance to look at the lineup? Is there anything that stands out to you
Yeah, I
as
mean
well?
the thing that immediately jumps out at me, and I have to see this, is House of the Deadites. I'm
Right.
such
Yeah.
a massive fan of the Evil Dead films and the
Yes.
series. Absolutely love it. So this is a documentary looking at the original film and then its continued impact on us. I think it'll be really good. I believe it has interviews with people like Bruce Campbell, I believe. Yeah, I mean, that sort of thing, I'd have that all the time, because I kind of feel like something like that, a documentary, there's not going to be too many opportunities to see it unless you're lucky enough for it to come up on the particular streaming service that you have.
I agree. I think this is, I always, for anyone that has seen me at Frightfest, I always like these films. I always go and watch any documentary it's playing or stuff like that for the
Mm,
exact reason you say. Sometimes they play Frightfest and you never see them ever again for whatever reasons, and sometimes that is a real shame because normally they're always in my top films at the festival. I was saying the documentaries are always my
mm,
favourite part of the festival. The short film showcases are, they're always the top. I think you get the most bang for your buck out of them, and you're always, you're going to have shorts in there that you don't really connect with, but you're always going to find shorts that you really really do connect with, and that's the fun part of it. There's something for everyone. There's something that, if you're going to watch this with, maybe your boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband, or maybe you've got some flatmates. You're going to sit down. You're going to check these out. You're all going to find something. There's going to be something for everyone. And myself having been a short filmmaker and met loads of short filmmakers over the years, they're the nicest, hardest working people. No one really gets paid for anything they do. They do this out of a passion. They do this for a love, which, to be honest, is the same for a lot of these features. But yeah, to support these guys and girls, you have no idea where they're going to be in the next couple of years. You could see a short film that you really like, and in
mm,
2, 3,
yeah.
4 years time, they could be making this killer feature, that absolutely blows up, and they're the next big thing in Hollywood. A little bit like we've actually had this week with the guys that have just made the absolute juggernaut that is Host on Shudder. I met those guys and interacted with those guys when a film of theirs called Dawn of the Death was playing festivals, which is an absolutely outstanding film, which I believe is available online. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it. Incredible, incredible short film. And yeah, they've just made Host. So it just goes to show that a few years later, these people can blow up, and you can kind of see where it started.
I'm also a fan of there's a couple of anthologies playing as well, which I'm really keen to see. I like
Yes.
those kind of ones. Just as a kind of a difference to the shorts, that they've got a kind of overarching connecting story as well. I really like those.
Yeah, I like those. I normally like the if it's got a good wraparound,
Yeah,
if we can really
yeah.
bring them together. I feel like sometimes them anthologies really live on the wraparound. If you can make something that really connects that all together, you've got a really, really solid experience.
I think there's at least two playing, but the one I'm particularly looking to see is one called A Dark Place, which is based around Aboriginal Australian history, and
Yes, yes.
it looks at these little short stories are looking at parallels with history, and I think that's such an original idea. I can't really think of any other Aboriginal history films, full stop, let alone horror films that
No,
I've seen. I
I
think
agree with you.
this could be really really good.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's definitely one that stands out. I'm going to pick one from each day, just that I'm looking forward to, and if I was going to recommend seeing anything or seeing one film from each day, these are the films. So
I'm assuming you're going to admit the 27th, because the only film is Sky Sharks.
there you go. I mean, it has to be Sky Sharks. You have to
Just
watch Sky Sharks.
yeah,
But from Thursday, you can also watch short film showcases. So, I definitely recommend that. So go on then, Chris. Friday, what are you picking out from Friday?
I Am Lisa.
Oh, nice. Okay, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I do love a revenge film. I do
Yeah,
love a werewolf film, and this is both mixed up together. So I mean, I couldn't ask for more.
sold, right?
That's
Sold,
me sold. Yeah, that's
sold.
that's the
So,
one.
so oddly enough, my Friday was actually different.
Oh
My
really?
yeah, my one recommended film from Friday is a film called 12 Hour Shift, which is from a director called Brie Grant, and I believe this is a feature film debut
Yeah.
as a director. So I'm really looking forward to this. And if that didn't sell you enough, this also has David Arquette in it and Mick Foley.
Mick Foley.
Mick
Ah,
Foley,
didn't know that.
right? So, I'm leaving it with that. That's Friday. Let's move on to Saturday. What you pick?
Well, A Dark Place,
Oh,
the
okay, yeah,
Australian
of course.
anthology.
Already touched.
Really, really.
Yeah.
Out of all of the films, that's probably the one that I want to see the most.
Oh, okay, interesting, interesting. So my Saturday is different, but my one's a documentary now. It's called The Horror Crowd.
Yeah, that looks
Yeah.
good.
Oh, yeah, it looks really good, man. It's essentially looking at the filmmakers and people behind some of your favorite films. So the creators behind your favorite films. And yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I always love stuff like this. I try and consume as much around filmmakers and entertainers and what inspired them, what brought them to the table. Yeah, so for this is a no-brainer for me. Really is.
Do you want to do the next one first?
So my Sunday is a film called A Ghost Waits, which premiered at the Glasgow Film Festival earlier this year. But the reason I want to bring this up is it actually it has that connection with Black Mass because we both premiered at the Glasgow Frightfest event, but also the incredible composer that worked on Black Mass, that is Mitch Bain. He has composed a brand new score for this film, which will make its debut at this screening. So if I, can throw any shout out there during this entire podcast, I want to throw it to Mitch because he's one of the most lovely guys I've ever met, and he put his heart and soul into Black Mass. And we will be working again on many other projects.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I cannot wait to see what he does with this because I genuinely think the man's a genius. And it's a great, it's I haven't seen this film either yet, so I'm so excited to go in and watch this film.
I have to say, I'm not just saying this. That was going to be my choice, but when I saw it's the same day as the other one I wanted to see. I thought I can't pick that as well because
Yeah, yeah,
I wanted to see how to the Deadites. But
of
if we're
course.
if we're talking films, it would be A Ghost Waits. Desperately want to see that.
And for those that will be buying festival passes, you can actually watch both of these because they are trying to run it like the real festival. There's two films that will clash, but you pick one film, and then I believe you can watch four films a day. So you could watch House of the Deadites and A Ghost Waits, both on Sunday, August 30th, which I will personally be doing, and then we'll be chatting about on this podcast, that
Yes.
follows.
Yeah.
So that brings us to Monday. What is your pick for Monday, sir?
Well, I'm going to go actually the last film of the whole thing, The Swerve. I'm kind of thinking, well, I could be wrong, but I kind of want to end on something that's not constant gore
Yeah,
because I'm hoping I'll have my fill of that
yeah.
through the previous days. But to me, I mean, I don't know anything about this film, but it sounds like a much slower kind of a psychological horror film.
Yes, it is. I have seen this film.
Have you?
So Black Mass had its North American premiere at a incredible festival called Panic Fest, which you've probably all heard of.
Yes.
And The Swerve was playing Panic Fest, and I had the absolute pleasure of meeting the guys behind this film, and they are some of the most lovely, amazing guys I've ever met on a festival circuit. They were so welcoming. They were so complimentary to Black Mass, but they gave incredible
Mm.
feedback on the film. And we went out for breakfast with them one morning. Yeah, we got to talk to Swerve, we got to talk Black Mass, we got to talk future projects. I've met a lot of really, really nice people. They don't all make incredible films. And when I say incredible films, this may be my film of the year.
Seriously.
Yeah. And we were at Panic Fest in January, I think. And I haven't seen something yet that's topped it.
So do you know what? We should probably say that wasn't planned. I wasn't setting you up. I genuinely,
Oh, no, genuinely. Yeah, I had no
I
idea.
just this is just sounds like the kind of film that I want to see.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about it now.
Yeah, no, we genuinely had no idea what each other was going to pick. We went in completely cold on this. But yeah, The Swerve, if I can recommend any film from the entire weekend, I am going to recommend that just because
Wow.
it is such a powerful film. Such a powerful film. And if you really like character driven, films that really look at characters' mental states and the breakdown of a character's mental state, this is the film for you. I'm not going to say you're going to have some fun because it's a very hard film to watch, but you are going to connect with it. You are going to get something out of it.
Awesome.
And the fact that the whole festival ends with this, in my opinion, every single person that buys a ticket for Fright Fest, day ticket, weekend pass, whatever it is, if you end with this film, you are going to be ending Fright Fest speechless. It is that good.
Wow.
So, Chris, guess what that brings us on to?
Oh, it's time, isn't it?
It's time. It's time.
Ah, creepy link of the week. I mean, first off, had you seen this before? Okay.
No, I had not.
Okay, right. So I'll give you a little bit of background because once we've spoken about it, I'll actually give you the full background. So the little bit of background is this is an Icelandic band called Moom, pronounced Moom. It's actually M-U-M with one of the little lines above the U. The album is called Summer Make Good, and the track I sent you, music video and track, was the very snappy titled "Will the Summer Make Good for All of Our Sins?"
Rolls off the tongue, that time.
Yeah, and I remember very clearly the first time I saw this. I was a teenager, staying up late. My parents were out, and it was kind of, I don't know if people remember, but you used to get some really weird shit on MTV late at night,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
Aphex Twin, Come to Daddy, and all these things. And I remember watching this, and I was just mesmerized. It was so creepy, but I couldn't look away. Could not look away. So what did you think of it? What did you think it was about? What did you make of it? Did you like it?
Yeah, so I did like it. So this is the way I'm going to start it. So when we first started this podcast, and when you come up with this idea to do a creepy link of the week, the first week we obviously had that absolute nightmare that was
The Teletubbies.
the Teletubbies thing. I don't know. That was insane. That was a creepy link of the week. Then the second week we done a short film, which I was very happy of because obviously,
Yep.
like we've just been speaking with Frightfest, I want to showcase a bit more of that stuff, and we will. But that was pretty, it's a short film, it's a short horror film. It's
It
like
is what it
really,
is.
it
Yeah.
is what it is, right? So it's you tell me I'm going to click on a short horror film, I know I'm getting a short horror film, right? You've kind of outdone yourself this week because first you were like, well, it's an Icelandic band. I was like, right, we're off to a great start here. And then, like you touched on, the title of the song is "Will the Summer Make Good for All Our Sins?"
Uh,
I was
but,
like, right, so they've got some snappy titles.
so let me
So
stop you there because I reckon because right, Icelandic band, straight away people are going to be thinking heavy metal,
right,
Viking,
right,
black metal. It's not at all.
right.
Not at all.
So here's what's so great about this. I did love this. Here's what's so great about this, and it comes back to what you just touched on. Icelandic band, okay, metal, black metal, death metal. This is where we're going. No, right? And when you get that, when you do watch those bands, the idea is that the music is heavy, but it's the video that's a little bit creepy, right?
Yeah.
So if that's what we were going for, okay, I thought, right, we're going to get a creepy video. This whole thing, top to bottom, is creepy. The video is. I've watched it like 2 or 3 times now. I still can't really make it out. The song will live with you forever. It will just. The song. Oh my god, you're never going to. This, like I said, this goes back to the Teletubbies thing. This is something you're never going to forget. This is something that will live with you. That if you're like me and becomes a bit obsessive with stuff, you
Yeah.
just end up living with this for a few hours, just watching it over and over again. You think you're out. You think you're out, and you're like, I'm going to watch something else. And then you go back and you watch this again. And it's incredible, man.
I'll try and explain it as best as I can.
Right.
So I bought the album off the back of this track, and it's a fairly old album. I think we're talking about late 90s, early 2000s. I don't know, something like that. I might have been a bit older actually when I saw it. So I bought this album, Icelandic band. I don't know what you'd call it, folk, electronica. I'm not sure as a general band, but the singer sings in this kind of very the most creepy childlike voice I've ever heard in my life. Never really heard anything like it. Unfortunately, she's not part of the band anymore. She went off and did her own thing. The whole concept of the whole album, and it's very strong in this as well, in this track, is to convey loneliness. So what they did was they recorded the whole album in an abandoned lighthouse off a coast, and it was very isolated, very cold, stormy, lonely place. And the whole album has that feeling. So other songs on there all have the same kind of sound effects in the background. So
Wow.
throughout the whole album, including this track, you hear the wind and the waves, you hear ropes creaking, maybe like the bells of ships going past. The song itself, to me, you kind of follow the journey of this doll that eventually falls into the ocean and then you see it float down to the ocean floor. To hear that, to hear me describe it like that, it doesn't sound creepy at all. But for God's sake, it's. I don't know if they were trying to be creepy or I don't know, because it's difficult in a way. It's difficult to put your finger on what it
It's
is that's so
unsettling, isn't
disturbing.
it?
Unsettling. That's a
It's
great word.
unsettling, yeah. It's
Great
really
word.
unsettling. Like I said, it just lives with you. And it's also, if you're touching on the video for a minute,
Mm.
it's filmed in this really unusual. The aspect ratio of the
Yeah,
full file is 4:3, but the video itself is
very
like
thin.
widescreen
Yeah.
within a 4:3 frame. It's very interesting. So you're essentially just watching this like tiny video in the middle
Yes.
of a 4:3 frame, but it completely adds to it. It completely adds to it. It's so unusual. The whole thing is
Also presented like an old film reel as well. So you've got like the
right.
crackling
You
and
do, yeah.
that kind of thing. The other thing, I do wonder if the song is about a murder and the body has been dumped in the ocean. And maybe that was girl's doll or something that you see floating down, because
It's
I don't know if
funny
you
you say
managed.
that
Did
because
you manage to pick out the lyrics?
no, not from the lyrics, but from the just from the imagery itself and the way the music accompanies that.
Mm.
That's what stood out to me.
So the lyrics are there's not a great deal of lyrics in it, but they're sort of revolving around the same theme, and the main theme is something like hammer her teeth and spoil the pretty snow underneath.
Jesus.
Yeah, and when there's that voice going, hammer in your teeth, spoil the pretty snow. You think, oh my god.
It's very much it's very much like a child's nightmare because the music is very reminiscent of like a creepy lullaby. The video is almost like this David Lynch-esque fever dream.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's some random imagery as well. Like right at the beginning, it starts with a load of maggots sort of squirming over each other.
Yeah.
Then you don't ever see that again or
No.
anything like that. There's no gore or anything like that. It's hard sometimes to make out what you're looking at.
I feel like the overarching, or for me, what I got from it was death.
Yeah,
The maggots, like you say, the sinking of the body.
yeah,
Yeah, was there like a decapitated head in there somewhere? Maybe from the doll or something. There's something that looks like a head that's just like sinking down to the bottom
yeah.
of the ocean, and it all kind of revolves around kind of death, but not in a almost in a very just being consumed back to the earth or to the ocean.
It's probably worth listening to that song in the context of the rest of the album as well, because
Okay,
the
interesting.
songs all kind of bleed into each other as well. And it's just this constant, the overarching feeling of the album as a whole is sadness and loneliness. And then this just kind of takes it to a whole new level.
Yeah,
Because none of the other tracks, even though the singing style is the same, it's still that very childlike voice. None of the other tracks are anything like this. That you wouldn't pick them out as being particularly creepy. You just think they were odd.
very strange. Yeah,
It's this track. Even if you didn't see the video, if you just listened to it, you would be very unsettled.
yeah, man. I can't wait to see what you bring next week. I really can't. It's going to take some topping.
I know. God, I'll have to
You've got
I'll
your
be
work cut
thinking
out of
about
you.
this all week now.
I know. Yeah, you got your work cut out of you, man.
Yeah, I might have to quickly make something.
There you go. Yeah. All right, buddy. Well, I think we're end it there for this week.
Cool.
Until then, guys, thank you very much for listening,
Brilliant.
and please stay safe around.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.